The Foolish Bird is a drama film from 2017, directed by Ryuji Otsuka and Hong-gui. It is part of an informal coming-of-age trilogy. I've seen the movie Stonewalling from 2022. The earliest film was Egg and Stone. It's hard to find. This is the middle one called The Foolish Bird. It's about Lynn. Her parents sort of work, so they send her away to live with her grandparents, and they don't really keep an eye on her. So she gets into a lot of trouble. And the major themes of this movie is how the death of the family unit, essentially, the grandparents don't keep an eye on Lynn, so she hangs out with May, her friend, and they steal cell phones and try to sell them. They get into all sorts of things and meet lots of weird people. And she ends up meeting someone she likes, and he ends up being a cruel sort of, I don't know, sociopath is the right word, but he's basically a jerk who just wants to use her for sex, and she falls head over heels with him, of course. But this movie is dark. It's very bleak. It's very grim. It really doesn't pull its punches by showing, you know, the socioeconomic decline of modern China, essentially, because they're in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing to do. What happens to your kids when you don't monitor them? What kind of weird people can they meet on social media? What kind of weird things can they get into? Not just the typical, oh, you know, drugs, gangs, but in this one, it's sexual deviancy, stealing, trying to get money. And then, of course, there's also a sort of lingering subplot in the background about a murderer in the background who killed and assaulted someone, and they haven't really caught them, but the grandparents aren't really too worried about their granddaughter just hanging around and not paying attention to her. And of course the movie does wind down into a really interesting sort of climax, but overall I think the main highlight of this film is the beautiful cinematography. It's very art house. There's a scene where she's like riding her bike and it just disappears into a fog and the neon lights. It's really great. But the movie's really long, really over the top runtime of a full 2 hours. Stonewalling was the same way, where it felt a lot longer than it needed to be. A little bit indulgent in its running time, but it's worth it for the beautiful camera work and the interesting themes and the sort of bleakness. So The Foolish Bird's an interesting film worth checking out if you're into something like that. I give it a 6 out of 10.